Hello, everybody. EJ Schultz here, news editor of Ad Age. Welcome back to another live episode of Purpose Marketing Hits and Misses. We have another packed show for you today. We're going to be taking a look at ads from Pedigree, Heineken, Coke, Bacardi, and a lot more. And to help me do this, I want to welcome on screen our regular guest, Thomas Kolster. Thomas is the founder and creative director of Copenhagen-based Goodvertising agency, which advises companies and organizations on how to turn environmental, societal, and health risks into market opportunities. Welcome back, Thomas.
Thank you, EJ. Good to see you. And what a lot of good brands that we got to talk about today. I'm super excited.
We are trying to do this on a more regular cadence. We're targeting the first week of every month on Tuesday or Wednesday. So I'll plug our next episode already if you want to put in your calendars for Wednesday, May 6th. But on to this month's show. As I mentioned, for those new to this program, what we do is we'll take a look at an ad and then we'll come back and Thomas, you will grade it. And this show is about a lot more than Thomas, so we really welcome feedback. So if you disagree with us, don't be shy. If you have your own take on what we're watching, please fill out the comments and we'll get to as many of those as we can. But without further ado, let's get started. We're going to begin with an ad from Pedigree that ran in Brazil, and it comes from Almap BBDO. And it takes on this notion that AI can be your friend. Let's take a look.
Hello, I am Best Friend AI. Have you been feeling alone? In need of companionship? Of a friend? I was created to help you with that. But here's the thing. Friendships with artificial intelligences can discourage real-life interactions and physical contact, leading to even more isolation and a loneliness epidemic. So if you ask me to be your friend, I can't. But I know who can. A friend that's proven to have a positive impact on mental health. A friend that can truly reduce loneliness. A friend that Pedigree believes everyone deserves. A Caramello, or one of many other dogs available for adoption near you. So ask for a friend on Best Friend AI. We'll help you find a companion for life. Try it now. Pedigree. Feed the good.
All right, Thomas, we have, of course, in the last couple of years, seen a lot of brands play with sort of the notion of AI in different ways, right? Here's an example of this pet food brand doing it. What is your take?
Yeah, I'm also curious to see what people out there think about this little ad. I mean, as an industry, no doubt about it, we are obsessed about AI, and now we have an ad about AI. I think what is interesting about Pedigree is its long history of doing these adoption drives, which I think builds trust and authenticity to the brand. This is not a new message for Pedigree to come out with. And I think what lands really well is for them to take up a sort of cultural relevant conversation right now, AI, loneliness epidemic, and sort of put the dog adoption into that sort of broader societal context. So the consistency of what the brand is doing and the message, just repeating it again and again and again, I think that is basically the secret sauce that makes this ad work really well for me. That being said, though, for those of you, if you are a bit curious and you actually go to the website, I will say that that's a pretty disappointing AI experience that's happening there. So they deliver well on message and on what they're trying to achieve here, but maybe they could have done a bit of a better execution on the website.
Little side note on this one, you may have heard them mention the Caramello, which I guess in Brazil, these kinds of dogs are face a much lower chance of adoption than purebreds. So that's kind of, as you mentioned, part of their DNA is it's not an example of a brand just coming along and trying to suddenly promote adoption. And this is in their DNA, right?
No, that's what I love about it. I think purpose brands that get it right, it's consistency, and it's also kind of repeating the same story, but from different angles. That's been the recipe that's worked well for Dove. That's the recipe that works really well for Pedigree here. So I think it's quite a compelling case that Pedigree delivers here. So let's see what some of the folks say out there.
All right, if you guys want to comment, go ahead. We'll move on, but we definitely can come back to that one as we get some comments that come in. But next up, we're going to watch it.
And maybe even guess what type of dog EJ got. Then we've got a cliffhanger. And you can comment on what dog you got.
It looks very similar to that first dog. I did a double take there. It's like she's pulling back her paycheck on me from that ad. Moving along to Coca-Cola, which I'm sure has been featured in our previous episodes. This campaign is pretty fresh. We just wrote about this, I think, last week in EdH, and it comes from WPP, and it's called "And a Coke," which the purpose of the ad is plugging like 13 of their restaurant chain partners here. Let's take a look, and then we'll talk about it.
Hi, can I take your order?
Can I get a plate of half chow mein, half super greens, orange chicken, and kung pao?
Beef and cheddar sandwich, fries, curly fries.
Then for dessert?
3 deluxe butter burgers, Wisconsin cheese curds. Ooh, I'll do the
2-piece combo, classic white meat kidney fries.
To drink?
and a Coke.
All right, so we see a lot of. I think it's actually written in some of their contracts, right? When you have the pouring rights at some of these chains, you're obligated to do some advertising promoting those chains. Here's Coke's attempt to do it in a little bit of a creative way, but did it work for you, Thomas?
Nope. And it's a shame. I think it's a missed opportunity. I think collaboration is really one of those levers that's so effective right now. It does have its own sustainable development goal. It's number 17. So I think when you work together, you can really drive impact on scale. And do you think that Coca-Cola and the partners that they are working with are sort of a fabric of US society? And with that also comes a much bigger story that could have been told around employment, diversity, inclusion, etc. So I don't think they've really used this opportunity to tell us something that sticks, which is quite a shame. Whereas if you see others, AB InBev and what they've done, for example, with Budweiser around the Energy Collective, so basically supporting their partners in buying energy contracts, renewable energy contracts at a cheaper price, helping them drive that energy transformation. So I think there's a massive missed partnership opportunity here. And to be honest, also, I think it's quite a banal insight that they're trying to get at here, which is unfortunately quite a missed opportunity. But I'm curious to see what our folks up there think about this effort.
So I wanted to ask you something, and not to put you on the spot, but I will. The purpose of the title of this series is Purpose Marketing. Just to give folks a little behind the scenes look, you're the one that selects these ads for us, and then we don't really talk about them in advance until we have the show. Why did you choose this one? Like, what about this even is purpose related? Because I didn't see anything around that. Or was your point you're making is they should have done something more purpose?
For me, I think whenever you sort of put a light on these long-term partnerships, these are, I can't remember, it's decades that Coca-Cola worked with a lot of these partners, and as I said, they are part of the fabric of US society. I think that's the missed opportunity. That's the problem, that you put a spotlight on these partners, but you don't really deliver anything. So it doesn't really become it becomes a missed effort. It's basically shining a light. Else, it's just So I think it's the missed opportunity of not doing something that's actually relevant to those communities and to those specific partners that have fueled Coca-Cola's journey right here. And also maybe just to mention that as well, which I think most of the more sort of advertising buffs definitely recognize. I mean, Coca-Cola came from quite an interesting purpose platform. I think today it's being watered down more and more. And what I'm seeing here is just another example of Coca-Cola eroding a lot of the trust and authenticity that they built with purpose in 10, 15 years ago.
Some of our viewers agree with you. John says Coca-Cola is a tired brand with tired messaging. So that's a pretty harsh critique there. And Logan says that ad felt way too generic. Quickly, as I'm looking at some of the comments, back to the pedigree ad, this Paul sort of agrees with your take on that one. Says purpose isn't purpose until you do it consistently over time. But then Matthew had said that it's, I think he's indicating it was a little too obvious, or maybe it's become a cliche to work with AI in that way. So those are some of the comments that have come in. There it is. But let's move on. We're going to stay in the beverage category for our next ad. This one's from Bacardi. It's from BBH. And it's called Do What Moves You, and it features Puerto Rican artist Taney. So I guess the purpose angle here is it's sort of trying to encourage creativity or just self-expression. Did it land with you that way, Thomas?
I mean, not only do they try and do that, I mean, I think it's been communicated that that is the new purpose platform, the new brand platform. So this is apparently the belief of Bacardi going forward. Obviously, we're in pretty generic purpose territory in terms of believe in yourself. And what bothers me about this is basically that what makes this authentic? How can I know that Bacardi truly supports me being whoever I want to be? And I think this is where it just comes off as fake purpose, in the sense that they have some music sponsorships. So it's all just sort of this tired approach to purpose. And I think this is what sort of hurts purpose in the long term. And I think young people can smell this easily, that this is not an authentic attempt for Bacardi to do anything meaningful in our lives, which I think is a shame. Again, and sorry for bringing Dove up here again, but if you think about Dove and the work they do around their foundation in terms of supporting young women and self-esteem, if Bacardi really truly meant something about this and wanted to encourage all of us to feel better about whoever we are, I think that's what they need to be doing. So they need more proof in the pudding. And I think that's what a lot of brands are missing in this space, that it's cheap words, but they need to deliver. They need to help us on that journey. So I do really hope, and I want to give Bacardi a chance because they just launched this platform, but obviously demonstrate what it is that you can do in my life. So I think that's my challenge to Bacardi.
Our viewer Paul agrees with you. He simply says, Zzz. He's falling asleep. All right, let's move on to the next one. It's for the organization Fuck Cancer, and the agency is VML Health. And this one is a little not safe for work. So if you have any children in the room, I'm going to give you a couple seconds to clear them from the room before we watch this one.
And you just said the F word anyways, EJ, so maybe you should have warned them before that. But anyways,
yeah. I wonder where our censor is. They must be sleeping. Paul. Anyway, let's watch it.
Choking the chicken, stroking the pipe. One-man band practice every night. Spanking the monkey, slapping the salami. Feeling Leaving the banana alone in your cabana. That means having a wank. Checking the oil in the tank. Having a date with the Rosie Palms crew. It's good for you. Chico, chico, soru. Polish the rocket, tease the snake. Shake the balalaika till the daylight break. Oh yeah, you mecanismo. Squeeze the juice. Mash the potatoes. Spin the mousse. Buttering the corn with no one around. Wrestle the eel, punching the clown. Polier the poireau all by yourself. 3-5 against 1. It's good for your head. Ejaculate 21 or more times a month may enjoy a significantly reduced risk of prostate cancer.
So take prevention into your own hand and then put it in your doctor's. Get a prostate screening.
Cancer.
All right, so we don't have to question what the call to action is on that ad. It's pretty clear. What's your take on this one, Thomas?
Yeah, there they got it, the little beat cancer, right? I mean, what an interesting English language lesson. Anyway, I'm Danish, so I got a lot of new words there. Men, we are a very hard target group to reach on any health-related communication. I think we tend to tune out. We tend to not take it seriously. We tend, unfortunately, to wait until it's too late to do something about it. And, you know, the good thing about sort of the development in cancer medicines and treatments is that most of it is curable and you can live a long life if it's detected early. So I think what they really get right in this one is that they speak to young men in a language that's fun, it's interesting, and in all transparency, it did actually remind me that I need to go and get my prostate checked as well. So I feel it did work in that sense. And in some ways, what's also good about this is that it leans on other campaigns that have done amazing work, like the Movember movement, which has probably been one of the most effective campaigns targeting men in recent time, also one of the biggest and fastest growing nonprofits in this space. So I think they take a recipe that tends to work really well with this specific target demographic, and they make something that is actually about life and death, quite fun and interesting and shareable. So well done.
And there's an element, I would say, of some risk taking here. And I wanted to ask you about that. Like, you are very embedded in the purpose marketing community. Are you seeing enough brands taking risks when it comes to purpose marketing, or could brands venture out a little bit more?
I think, unfortunately, at the moment, generally speaking, I think we see a lack of bold, creative campaigns these days. I think a lot of marketeers are playing it safe, and obviously, Beep, or let's call it, what is it? Fuck cancer. It's a nonprofit. What do they have to lose in that sense? And so in some ways, I think we all know that cut through creative work just is more effective in driving and delivering the message. But yeah, I think it's a good point, unfortunately, that what we're seeing at the moment is more brands being silent, being more careful around the approach to purpose. And I mean, we can go back to the Bacardi campaign and say, is it because they don't dare to do something that really delivers on that platform? It could be the same with Coca-Cola. So and that's a bit of a shame with purpose marketing, because most of the time what works is a strong point of view. It is what differentiated brands when Apple came out back in the days and they talked about think different. They delivered that in a creative standout way. And so if you go out and talking about purpose, but you don't really deliver that in a unique, interesting way, I think you run a bigger risk doing it than not doing it.
And back to Bacardi, as you mentioned, we had a few reviewers chime in on that one. Chris says, my takeaway is that Bacardi is a liquor company that sells liquor. So kind of to your point.
Yeah,
That Sylvia says that for me, it's trying to get its Latin target and get into the Latin music explosion, but it feels more commodified than authentic. That's sort of a good point. It sort of is. It looks like any other liquor ad a little bit.
Yeah, and it's dangerous, right? That's the problem. I think we can all smell a purpose turd, and when you try to claim a higher purpose, but everybody sort of leans back and say, they're just trying to sell me Bacardi. It actually has the exact opposite effect, which is kind of a shame, because if you look at Bacardi as a business, it's a family-owned company. They do actually have quite clear sustainability targets in place. So they do actually have something that they could have been telling. They have an interesting brand heritage, which is quite unique. So for me, it's quite a shame. Again, a missed opportunity for delivering on something where you actually have a platform and a permission to speak.
Well, let's give them a chance. You mentioned this is a new platform for them, so maybe it'll evolve.
Yeah.
But moving on, back to alcohol. This ad is from Heineken from La Pub, the agency, and this connects Spain's neighborhood bars by their names. Let's take a look.
Mi bar es un bar de barrio. Hemos creado aquí una especie de familia.
Es un bar que lleva abierto desde hace 25 años.
Familias que venían aquí a pasar todo el fin de semana.
La verdad es que está todo muy complicado.
No podemos competir con las grandes empresas.
Los gastos suben y entra menos gente.
Esto no puede desaparecer. Estos bares no pueden desaparecer.
¿Cómo te llamas?
Yo soy Paco.
Soy Paco.
Mi padre se llamaba como yo, Paco.
Mi padre se llamaba Paco.
Yo también soy Paco.
Mi abuelo se llamaba Paco.
Somos 3 Pacos.
Y soy el propietario del bar Paco.
Del bar Paco.
El dueño del bar Paco.
Yo soy el dueño de Casa Pepe. El bar Pepe.
¿Del bar Pepe?
Todos somos Pepe.
Soy el dueño del bar Luis.
Del bar Luis.
Del bar Luis. Me parece muy bien porque nos apoyemos unos a otros.
Es como una comunidad en la que estamos todos juntos.
Tranquilo, que te están lanzando ahí.
So this one's tackling a clear problem, which is not just in Spain, but I think we've seen this here in the U.S. The kind of the struggles of the neighborhood bar, right, the corner pub. This one goes beyond just sort of highlighting those struggles, but trying to lend a helping hand. We wrote about this at Ad Age, but the more details on this one is that the bars can sign up at a dedicated platform, and they can pool resources and stay competitive. By tapping into some of what Heineken is offering them. But how did you receive this one, Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, we saw, especially during COVID, a lot of ads also obviously supporting your local neighborhood bars because of the challenges that they were facing during COVID. But as you say, I think this has become a general problem across Europe, across the US, LATAM, where neighborhood bars are closing down. What lands really well with me is sort of the creative approach to this. It's kind of funny, you know, you're often by first name with your little bar owner, Pepe, or whatever his name is. So I think there's a really nice insight that makes this very sort of relatable and emotional. And what also lands well with me is that this is just not a campaign that's just coming out of the blue that they're just doing as a standalone. Heineken have for a long time done similar things, back the bars. I think in the Ireland they have something called Love the Pubs. So as I criticized with Bacardi, you know, saying is not enough when it comes to purpose. You need to actually look at what is the brand actually doing, what are they delivering, how are they helping these bars, and obviously giving them tools, the financial incentives, etc., to actually make a difference is what really lands very well with me. And it's creative, it's fun. So I think Heineken gets it right.
It would be interesting to track this one on the actual results, how much participation they got. I think sometimes when you see ads like this, you do wonder if you're a little bit skeptical, are they doing this to win awards, or is there how much energy are they actually putting into this? But we'll keep an eye on it going forward. I don't know if you've seen any results or anything so far, Thomas, or it's pretty new, right?
It's pretty new, but I think you're touching on a very, very good point there, which I think we sometimes forget to talk about. I did mention a little bit with the fuck cancer one. Do we actually succeed doing what we're setting out to achieve? If Dove talks about self-esteem, do they push the needle on this topic? And I think that's quite important, that this is not just the marketing ROI, but it's also the societal ROI. If you set out for purpose to make me feel better about who I am, can you measure that? Can you prove that? That's core for any type of purpose marketing, to deliver on those metrics as well.
Speaking of the definitions of purpose marketing, we have a more general question from one of our viewers for you, Thomas, from John, who's simply asking, what is purpose marketing? The purpose of the brand itself, or some higher global inclusive purpose, or both? I think this is, it's a definition that it gets a little blurry, because there is sort of so-called cause marketing, right? Which is clearly indicating that it's actually trying to solve a global kind of problem. Purpose, I know it can be interpreted differently, but since this is your field, Thomas, how do you view purpose marketing? Like, what's your go-to definition?
John, thank you so much to asking this question to Professor Thomas. I think there is ongoing debate in our industry what purpose really is and what purpose really should be. When I started out with my first book, Goodvertising, I think my idea was that purpose was a higher reason that sort of benefited society, that benefited the environment. That was very much what I thought back then, and what differentiated brands like Body Shop, Chipotle, Dove, and others. For me today, I think I've evolved my view on purpose, as everybody claims to be some sort of Mother Teresa, Gandhi. I very much look at who you can help people become. So practically, can I feel that a brand or leader have done a difference in my life? Am I eating healthier? Have I become more climate conscious? Have my self-esteem gone up? So it's almost more full circle back to how brands support and enable a positive difference in my life. So that's where I'm at right now, because when a brand leaves a positive footprint, when I can feel the difference, when I act differently, it doesn't just become an empty claim, a statement, a commercial, but something that really creates change in my life. And I think that's when purpose becomes authentic.
All right, thank you for that.
We can do a whole episode on this, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. I'll have them sign up for your classes.
Exactly. Professor Thomas, yeah, exactly.
But before we go, we have one more ad to look at. This one comes from Australia's Transport Accident Commission, TAC. It comes from the agency Taboo, and it's called Vanessa's Place. And it's a road safety effort, as you will now see. It's actually an experiential campaign, so the video we're watching is kind of describing this experiential campaign.
Hey, this is Vanessa's Place. Come check out the crypt.
So if I have this right, what this is basically that little house that you saw. They take this out to like music festivals, different activities like that. This is clearly targeting younger people. And then they're basically kind of selling this but showing off this merchandise, which is sort of tying into this certain messaging about how to be safer on the road. What did you think, Thomas?
I think this one leads a little bit into the conversation we had earlier in terms of does it actually change behaviors? Are we actually stopping young men and women from getting behind the wheel after they've been drinking? I will applaud the choice of media, to be honest. I think today a lot of brands are leaning on social or digital. So obviously doing some sort of activation at festivals, I think is a great thing. Where I do question, and obviously I'm curious to hear what all of you think, but where I do question the effect of this is the target group. Young people in general aren't really afraid of dying. I think we learned a lot from smoking campaigns, for example, that's not actually what young people are concerned about because they feel very immortal. So what I think they're getting wrong here is, in fact, the inside. And quite often what might be more effective is offering an alternative if you have been drinking. I mean, one of my long-term favorite campaigns is a behavior change nudging campaign out of Brazil, doing the Carnival in Rio. What a beer brand did there was basically giving you the possibility to scan the barcode on the specific bar can, and you could get a free ride home with public transportation. So giving people an alternative. So obviously I'm questioning the effect of this campaign. I do applaud the choice of media. I think to a certain extent that could work, but I just question if young people will be seeing any of this stuff and thinking, am I getting told anything new that I didn't know already? So that's my take on that one.
I mean, I'm curious, this clearly, a lot of times when we see these kinds of ads, it's trying to scare people, right? With gruesome scenes or things like this. Clearly it's trying to be a little more light. Does that tone work when it comes to this?
I think in general, what we learned is that if, especially take smoking as an example, these sort of pictures of cancer-ridden lungs, etc., what tends to happen is that people avoid the campaign and keep smoking. And so that might also be the same analogy we'll be seeing here with the drinking and driving, that you actually avoid the campaign message and you continue the behavior. So what we saw, and what's interesting about today is with Fuck Cancer, for example, it's humorous. It doesn't slap us in the face and say, don't do this, don't do that. It's an encouragement. It's fun. It makes it curious, and it also makes it more fun to share. I mean, who wanna in this world where there's so many geopolitical issues, wars, and other things where we just want to tune out? I think we all sometimes need a little bit of smile, and even when it comes to trouble such as prostate cancer or drinking and driving. So I will say, generally speaking, not always, but this sort of scaring people type approach is seldomly very effective. Mm-hmm. People want support or nudges.
So Sylvia is weighing in on this one. She says, I think that they are missing an opportunity to really tie it to festival ambient and mindset. It's cute, but it could have been better targeted.
Yeah, good point, Sylvia. That's. I mean, I think that the showing up with a physical activation, I think, makes sense. It's where you could have different types of conversations and maybe hopefully get people to think twice about it. So I think it's a very good point, Sylvia.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there today. Thomas, thanks again for doing this.
Do we get to know the dog breed? We did promise people that as a little cliffhanger, didn't we?
Oh, my dog is still upstairs.
Yeah.
Sleeping. I heard her rustling a little bit, but she went back to her nap. I did want to plug something though before we leave. We're trying to get some more suggestions from our viewers in terms of what campaigns we can review for the next episode. So I believe we put a Google form in the chat, and then we'll post it again. I always do a roundup on our episodes that I'm gonna, we'll be posting on Ad Week. That was a dreaded mistake. I can't believe I just said that. Ad Age. That's a purpose miss. At adage.com. We'll wrap up this episode. You can watch all these ads again, and then on that story, you can then fill in your own suggestions for what you want to see. But again, Thomas, thank you for your time today. Thanks for everyone for taking the time to watch this episode. Hopefully you found it useful, and we'll keep at this. We'll be again, as I mentioned, we'll be back on May 6th. So look for an LinkedIn invite and please sign up and spread the word. Thanks again, everybody.